Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we take a look at forgotten Batman villain, the Spook. Throughout his near 80-year-old existence, Batman has faced countless enemies. Some of these have gone on to stand among the most infamous fictional villains in pop culture history, while others have completely vanished into obscurity. In this segment of Forgotten Bat Rogues, we spotlight the Spook. The Spook made his first appearance in a two-part story published in Detective Comics 434 and 435 in 1973. This two-parter was written by Frank Robbins and penciled by Novick. In it, Batman faces a new supercriminal in Gotham who calls himself the Spook and who uses various elaborate tricks and illusions to make himself appear as if he were an actual ghost. Spook is also a master escape artist and can seemingly get in or out of any confinement, no matter how sealed up. Using these skills, this new arch-villain has set up a racket he calls Escape Insurance Policy, selling his services to incarcerated convicts who wish to be free. At the end of the second part, Batman and Commissioner Gordon find out that the Spook is actually Val Caliban, a convicted murderer who was executed in the electric chair 10 years ago. So is the Spook a real ghost? That question was answered a few months later in Batman 252. This story was also done by Frank Robbins and Novick, and I suppose you could say is the third part of a trilogy. Anyway, in the comic, Batman discovers the truth about Caliban, namely that he faked his death in the electric chair by using a hapless, physically identical stand-in. So no, Val ain't no ghost, he's flesh and blood. We also find out that he used to be an engineer who helped design Gotham's prison and secretly added a bunch of hidden escape routes in every cell. This explains how he's been able to exit and enter them. After this trilogy, the Spook returned numerous times throughout the 1970s and was for a brief while one of Batman's most recurring foes. He made plenty of cameos and totaled at 6 stories in the 70s that featured him as the main villain. But then, after the last one, which was published in 1979, the Spook, fittingly to his nature, simply vanished into thin air. We got a few small cameo appearances here and there, but nothing noteworthy. It's odd, he rose in the 70s to become one of the Dark Knight's biggest enemies, and then with the start of the 80s, nothing. It wasn't the end though, as eventually, almost 2 decades later, in 1997, the Spook returned, yet again in a grand role. He was in a 3-parter published in Legends of the Dark Knight, written by James Robinson and penciled by Paul Johnson. The story was simply titled Spook and featured a complete reimagining of the character. Here he's an unnamed covert Black Ops operative who was sold out on a mission in South America. The only one to survive of his squad, he went insane and believed himself to actually be dead. As the Spook, referring both to ghosts and agents, he came back from the afterlife to get his vengeance on his treacherous employers. This version of the character never returned, and the next time we saw the Spook, it was the old classic Val Caliban version. This was in Gotham Knights number 46, published in 2003. The story was written by Scott Beatty and penciled by Roger Robinson, and in it we learn that his real name isn't Val Caliban, but Valentin Kalibanich. The comic treats him just like I do, an old forgotten bat rogue who's now finally, after years, being released from prison due to good behavior. So it's a villain rehabilitation story, though it doesn't end too well, with Spook going back to his criminal ways. Since then, we've only seen old Val Caliban once, namely in Batman 657, published in 2006. In that comic, he joins the dead for real, as Damian Wayne chops his head off. It was just a small cameo and a very unceremonious ending for the character. Will he ever return again? Maybe. I wouldn't completely rule it out, seeing as he's been gone for long periods of time before and then eventually come back. The Spook actually fascinates me a bit. I don't mean the character himself, but the fact that he was such a major rogue in the 70s, and then when that decade ended, Caliban just suddenly disappeared. I can't help but wonder what happened there, because it sure seems like DC initially really pushed for him to be a big villain. I don't think he's that bad of a character either. character. Yeah, you get a little bit of a Scooby-Doo vibe from him, but Spook's visual design is pretty cool, and he's quite unique in the Batman Rogues Gallery. I mean, the Dark Knight doesn't have any other master escape artists among his enemies. It might be kind of fun to see Spook sell his escape insurance policy to the Arkham inmates. Also, escapology is one of Bruce Wayne's many skills, so there's a similarity there between the two that you could potentially explore. He's never going to rise to the ranks of Batman's main rogues, but I wouldn't mind seeing Spook pop up every now and then. So there you have it. That's the story of forgotten Batman villain, the Spook. Remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.